The alien doctor stopped breathing. Not because she was injured, not because something had attacked the medical station. She simply stared at the holographic scan of the human standing in front of her. Then, she whispered 4 words that made every scientist in the room turn around. "Get him off my ship." The human frowned. "Why?" The doctor didn't answer. She was staring at his bloodstream, at the microscopic organisms moving through it, at the strange antibodies, at the cells that had survived things that should have killed them. Then she looked toward the emergency door. "Lock down the medical deck." The captain stepped forward. "Doctor, what's happening?" The alien physician finally looked up. "That human isn't infected." The captain relaxed. "That sounds like good news." The doctor shook her head. "No." She pointed at the scan. "He is the infection." The room went silent. And nobody aboard the ship knew that in less than 6 hours, the entire Galactic Federation would begin asking one terrifying question. What exactly had humanity been surviving on Earth? The ship was called the Meridian. It belonged to the Galactic Medical Expeditionary Corps. Its mission was simple: find life, study life, save life. The crew had visited 312 inhabited worlds. They had treated radiation poisoning on 3 planets. They had developed vaccines for 6 alien diseases. They had even survived a parasitic outbreak that consumed an entire mining colony. Nothing had ever frightened the medical crew. Until they rescued a human. The human's name was Daniel Cross. He was an engineer from a small orbital mining station near Saturn. His transport had suffered a reactor failure. The Meridian found him floating inside an emergency capsule. He was unconscious. Cold, dehydrated, his oxygen supply had only 11 minutes remaining. The rescue team brought him aboard. The medical scanners immediately began analyzing him. His heart rate was elevated. His body temperature was low. His blood chemistry was unusual. But none of that was impossible. The doctors had seen stranger things. Then, Dr. Sarah ran the biological compatibility scan. The computer froze. She restarted it. Same result. She ran it again. The machine displayed unknown biological system. Sarah frowned. Impossible. She opened the scan manually. Human cells appeared on the display. Thousands of them. Millions, billions, but something else was there. Something moving. Tiny organisms. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, microscopic life. Everywhere, Sarah stared. The captain looked over her shoulder. "What are you seeing?" "Life? Obviously no." She zoomed in. "Inside him." The captain frowned. "Parasites?" Sarah shook her head. "Symbiotic organisms." She enlarged the image. "There are billions." The captain took a step backward. "Billions?" "Yes, remove them." "I can't." "Why?" "Because they're supposed to be there." Daniel woke up 20 minutes later. The first thing he saw was a 6-eyed alien staring at him. The second thing he noticed was that he was strapped to a medical bed. The third thing he noticed was that everyone in the room looked terrified. Daniel blinked. He looked around. "Where am I?" Nobody answered. He tried to sit up. 3 medical officers immediately stepped backward. Daniel stopped. "Did I do something?" Dr. Sarah approached cautiously. "You are human." Daniel stared at her. "Yes, you are from Earth. Yes, your planet is classified as a Class 9 death world." Daniel shrugged. "Something like that." The doctor stared at him. "Something like that?" Daniel smiled. "I mean, it's home." Sarah looked horrified. "Home?" "Yes." She looked at the captain. Then back at Daniel. "Captain, we need to discuss quarantine procedures." Daniel laughed. "Quarantine?" Sarah didn't laugh. "Yes." Daniel looked confused. "I don't have a disease. That is not the problem." "Then what's the problem?" Sarah slowly pointed toward the holographic display. Your body. The Federation had a simple medical philosophy. Healthy species were clean. Their bodies contained controlled microorganisms. Their immune systems were predictable. Their environments were sterile. Their diseases were studied and eliminated. Earth was different. Earth wasn't sterile. Earth was a biological war zone. Every square centimeter contained competition. Bacteria fought bacteria. Viruses evolved against immune systems. Plants developed chemical defenses. Animals developed venom, claws, teeth, armor, and camouflage. And humans? Humans lived in the middle of all of it. They breathed it. They touched it. They ate it. They survived it. And their immune systems adapted. Generation after generation. Daniel didn't understand why everyone was so frightened. To him, nothing was unusual. He had grown up on Earth. He'd gone camping as a child. He'd fallen into rivers. He'd been bitten by insects. He'd gotten sick. He'd recovered. He'd eaten food that had been left outside too long. He had survived school cafeterias. Sarah looked at him. What is a common cold? Daniel shrugged. It's a cold. What does it do? Usually makes you miserable for a few days. And you survive? Usually, the doctor stared. Usually? Daniel smiled. Some people get complications. Sarah turned toward the captain. That's what I'm talking about. The captain ordered the ship sealed. No one was allowed into the medical deck. Daniel was confused. He had been rescued. Now he was being treated like a biological weapon. He eventually asked the captain why. The captain gave him an honest answer. Because your planet is terrifying. Daniel laughed. Earth? Yes, why? The captain opened a planetary database. Earth appeared. Blue, beautiful clouds swirling over oceans. Green continents. White polar ice. Daniel smiled. Looks nice. The captain changed the display. The image zoomed in. Hurricanes, wildfires, volcanic eruptions, predators, venomous snakes, poisonous plants, parasites, bacteria, viruses, radiation, extreme temperatures. Earth suddenly looked different. The captain whispered, You call this home? Daniel nodded. Yes, the captain looked at him. How? Daniel thought for a moment. Then he said, We learned. The Meridian scientists wanted answers. They scanned Daniel for 12 hours. They discovered something unexpected. Human bones were unusually dense. Human muscles were optimized for endurance. Human lungs were remarkably efficient. The immune system was aggressive. The brain could operate under severe stress. And humans had an extraordinary ability to regulate body temperature. But the strangest discovery came from the blood. Human blood contained antibodies capable of recognizing an enormous variety of biological threats. The scientists compared Daniel's immune response against known alien diseases. The computer generated an impossible result. Human antibodies recognized several pathogens that Daniel had never encountered. Sarah stared at the screen. How? The human engineer shrugged. Maybe we're just lucky. No. She shook her head. Luck doesn't produce this, Daniel asked. What does? Sarah looked at him. Evolution, Daniel smiled. Yeah, Sarah suddenly understood. Humans hadn't become dangerous because they were designed to be dangerous. They had become dangerous because their planet punished weakness. Every generation faced new threats. Every generation adapted. And the survivors passed those adaptations forward. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was an evolutionary battlefield. Then the Meridian made a mistake. They sent the human sample to the Federation Medical Network. Within minutes, thousands of laboratories received it. Within an hour, the Federation's largest biological research facility requested access. Within 3 hours, The first warning was issued. Do not replicate human biological material. Nobody knew why. Until Laboratory 7 tried. The scientists attempted to culture human bacteria. They expected nothing unusual. Instead, the bacteria adapted. The culture became resistant to 3 standard sterilization methods. Then 4. Then 6. The laboratory shut down. The Federation's medical director contacted the Meridian. Where did you obtain the sample? The captain answered, from the human. There was silence. Then, do not let him leave the ship. The captain frowned. Why? The director replied, because we just discovered that your human microorganisms are adapting to our medical technology. Daniel was sitting alone in the medical room when the alarm started. Red lights flashed, doors locked. Security officers surrounded the corridor. Daniel stood. What happened? No one answered. He heard the captain's voice over the intercom. Daniel, remain where you are. Daniel looked around. Why? We have a containment breach. From what? The captain hesitated. Your bacteria. Daniel stared. My what? Your microorganisms. Daniel laughed. You're kidding. Nobody laughed. Daniel slowly sat back down. Okay. Then he asked the question that changed everything. Did they hurt anyone? The captain answered, not yet. Daniel's expression became serious. Then don't kill them. The captain was confused. What? Study them. Why? Because if they're adapting to your technology, Daniel looked at the sealed medical doors. Then something is wrong. Daniel was right. The bacteria weren't attacking. They were surviving. There was a difference. The Federation's sterilization technology destroyed almost every organism it encountered. The human bacteria adapted because that was what life on Earth did. But adaptation came with a cost. The bacteria became weaker outside controlled conditions. They couldn't survive indefinitely. They weren't a weapon. They were survivors, just like the human carrying them. Sarah finally understood. She looked at Daniel. You aren't dangerous because you are a predator. Daniel said nothing. You are dangerous because you come from a world where everything is competing to survive. Daniel smiled slightly. That's Earth. Sarah looked down. No. She corrected herself. That is humanity. The Federation Council held an emergency session. Some demanded Earth be quarantined. Others demanded humanity's biological technology be studied. A few wanted humans classified as a strategic threat. Then the human representative spoke. You're afraid of us. The council chamber became silent. The representative continued. I understand. He displayed an image of Earth. You see storms. Another image. Predators. Another. Disease. Another war. He looked around the chamber. But you don't understand what you're seeing. The image changed. A child helping an injured animal. A firefighter running into a burning building. A scientist working through the night. A doctor holding the hand of a dying patient. A human astronaut repairing a spacecraft. The representative spoke. Earth didn't make us monsters. He paused. It taught us to survive. The council remained silent. Then the oldest member asked, if Earth is so dangerous, why don't humans leave? The representative smiled. Because despite everything, he looked at the image of Earth. We love it. Months later, the Federation changed its classification. Earth was no longer simply called a death world. It received a new designation. Class 9 Evolutionary World. But the report contained one final warning. It read, human beings should not be evaluated solely by their physical strength, military technology, or biological composition. Humanity's greatest survival advantage is adaptability. Do not introduce human biological systems into an environment without understanding them. and under no circumstances, the report paused, should the Federation attempt to conquer Earth. Daniel eventually returned home. The Meridian offered him a position as a biological consultant. He refused. He wanted to go back to engineering. When asked why, he gave a simple answer: I miss home. Years later, Dr. Sarah visited Earth. She stood beside Daniel on a quiet hillside. Birds flew overhead. Wind moved through the grass. The doctor looked around nervously. So this is the death world? Daniel smiled. Yep, she watched a bee land on a flower. Aren't you afraid? Daniel laughed. Of what? Sarah pointed at the bee. That. Daniel looked at it. That's a bee. Exactly. Daniel shook his head. You're overthinking it. Sarah stared at him. Then she smiled. Perhaps that's the most human thing you've said. Daniel looked toward the horizon. The sun was setting. Earth was beautiful, dangerous, unforgiving, alive, and somewhere beneath the soil, inside the oceans, across the forests, and within every human body, billions of tiny survivors continued fighting their invisible war. The galaxy had spent centuries searching for the most dangerous species in existence. They had looked for monsters. They had searched for conquerors. They had studied alien weapons. They had measured military strength. But they had been looking in the wrong place. The most dangerous thing about humanity wasn't its weapons. It wasn't its armies. It wasn't even its death world. It was the simple fact that humans had learned how to survive almost anything. And once humanity reached the stars, the universe had no idea what it was about to face.